Meeting of September 10th, 2020. I'm your mayor, David Avila. Normally, we would ask Captain Williams to lead us in the pledge. However, he's not here today, so I'm going to ask Councilmember Bogue to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Greg. All righty. Mrs. Crawford, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Bogue. Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Riddell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen.
Here.
Mayor Avila.
Here. Mr. Casey, are there any changes to the agenda today?
I have no changes this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to public comment. We have one speaker, and anybody who wishes to speak must speak only on the items of this, limited to the items on the agenda. And if that's the case, Mr. McEwen, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members, Bill McEwen, 1236 4th Street. It's obviously a tragedy we're dealing with at El Dorado Ranch Park. I know there's a lot of people in this community who are probably heartbroken right now. They put so much time and effort into making that park viable. I hope you continue the emergency declaration, obviously, as the fire approaches Angeles Oaks, where I basically grew up. They're now trying to protect structures up in Angeles Oaks. So it's a disaster for Yucaipa. It's a disaster for a whole lot more communities. And it's also a disaster for our planet, when basically the whole western United States is up in flames right now. The El Dorado Fire is just one of the fires that's taken place across the West Coast. So in the future, we're going to have to somehow, like the pilots that used to come back from flight missions when I was in the Navy, they always had a debriefing. And I hope that as this thing progresses, you guys can do a reassessment. Okay, what went right? What went wrong? How can we improve? We know it's going to get hotter, and we know there's going to be more fuel in the future. Shouldn't we close these parks down when it becomes extreme fire conditions like that, using the same monitor as the National Forest uses? There's going to have to be a real assessment. I think the park could come back from this. But first things first is to address the emergency and make sure, life safety is all taken care of. Thank God nobody got killed yet in that one. There's people that died in other ones up in Oregon, Washington, it's all up in flames. It's climate change. At some point, we're going to have to acknowledge it and start saying, how can we adapt? How can we change our processes and procedures to acknowledge it and make people safer, make the parks safer? And I just hope in the future, as we move on with this, that assessment takes place and we can learn from what the tragedy is taking place right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that was a little bit out of order, but I think it's a very poignant statement, and it's a good way, it's an excellent segue to move into department reports. And the first one is ratification of the City of Yucaipa City Manager's Disaster Proclamation due to the El Dorado Fire in the City of Yucaipa.
Thank you,
Casey.
Mr. Mayor. This item, as you mentioned, is the ratification of the declaration that occurred on Sunday for the fire that started on Saturday. As council is aware, City Council has 7 days to ratify the declaration and potentially extend the declaration. As the speaker mentioned, and certainly council is aware, we have had a very significant fire incident that affected our community and neighborhoods and communities around us: Oakland, Forest Falls, Mountain Home, and now Angeles Oaks. And unfortunately, we've lost a few structures in our community, at least one home, and others are certainly at risk still today in the Angeles Oaks area. And a lot of resources have been applied to this fire, statewide resources, mutual aid through mutual aid agreements, and police and fire and aircraft and of course helicopters and hand crews, but also your staff has been very engaged throughout the event with Public Works and Police Department certainly, but Public Works helping with road closures and evacuations, and senior staff helping with evacuation centers, Red Cross efforts at the community center in collaboration with Megan and her staff. Sherry O'Connell has been working around the clock on a lot of these issues as well, and Jennifer, whether it's large animal evacuation center issues, related issues, or Trinity Homes evacuation to the Catholic Church. Your staff has been very engaged as well through this entire effort, in addition to your fire staff and police staff, your city hall staff. And so those result in costs that are reimbursable through the declaration that the state has made on behalf of the county or for the county, and that is the subject of this staff report. And so in order to give us the opportunity to pursue those cost reimbursements for what has transpired and costs that are still to come, staff is requesting that this ratification be approved this evening and extended at least to the September 28th City Council meeting. As Council is aware, state law allows 30-day extension for up to 30-day for declarations. Our local requirements are less than that, so we're requesting that you waive that 14-day requirement, extending the declaration to September 28th, and we will come back to you on at that council meeting with a recommendation about whether to continue that or allow it to expire at that point. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Are there any questions of staff?
I have a question. Why are you extending it to the 28th? Why don't you go to the next meeting after that, the first reading in October?
The state law won't allow us to go more than 30 days.
Would that be 30 days?
What's that? Well, 14 is the city's requirement. State law is 30 days. I don't know if that gets us past 30 days.
Today's the 10th.
What is the first meeting in October? It is the 12th, so that takes us over 30 days.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. If there's no further discussion, Mrs. Crawford, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Bogue. Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Riddell.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen.
Aye.
Mayor Avila.
Yes, it passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, COVID-19 Small Business Grant Program Update.
Caroline
Ellen
will
Valari.
be giving that report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'm here this afternoon to provide you with an update to the city's Small Business Grant Program. As you may recall, the city received $687,883 in CARES Act funding, a portion of which council dedicated for a small business grant program with some flexibility for staff to adjust that amount based on the interest of the community. Under this program, businesses could receive up to $5,000 in grant funding for costs incurred due to the COVID-19 pandemic and to help offset costs for businesses required by the closures, so business interruption caused by the closures. To be eligible, businesses must be for-profit, located in the city of Yucaipa, have a valid business license since September 3rd, 2020 or earlier, have between 1 to 25 employees, and that is how we classify small businesses, between 1 and 25 employees, be currently open or plan to open before October 1st, 2020, and of course comply with CDC and public health guidelines. The program was successfully launched last Thursday, and after 72 applications, given the amount of funding available, staff decided to close the application period to be able to assist all eligible businesses. We launched the program last Thursday at 8 a.m. and closed it at 3 p.m., so it was open for 7 hours, during which we received a total of 72 applications. I believe in the staff report it says 76, but the accurate count is 72. Staff will be screening all the applications for completeness and eligibility requirements, after which applications will be processed in the order that they were received. Given the amount of funds available and the grant amounts per business, it is anticipated that the city will assist 60 businesses through this program. Post-application, businesses that have been approved for the grant will be required to submit a post-expense report that will document how the funds were utilized, and this will be included in the city's reporting to the federal government on the CARES Act funding and how we used it and the grant recipients used it. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
If I may just add to that very briefly, when we came to you a few meetings ago and looked at the overall budget for the CARES Act funding, as you may recall, that included funding for unemployment costs beyond what we had would normally see and under these because of the circumstances, testing and other city hall improvements to help with the online plan check, permits, all that sort of thing. We were thinking in terms of about $100,000 for the small business grant program. What Caroline was discussing is really increased to $150,000, and we took that from some of the improvements that we were anticipating doing at City Hall because of that interest by the small businesses. We just felt like we needed to do as much as we could for small businesses. And so a combination of increasing it to $150,000 and making it $2,500 per application rather than $5 allows us to help almost all the businesses that submitted that are going to be eligible. There probably will be a handful that don't quite make it, but like she said, we got that many applications in, 7 hours? Is that very quickly?
Yep.
So I just wanted to give you some context on the overall process.
Did we have to provide any help or assistance in the preparation of the applications, or did they all kind of know what to do and how to do it?
We had provided some outreach leading up to the rolling out the application. Megan and her team together, I think with Caroline at times, went out and actually met with folks out there about the application process. We made the application process about as easy as we could. And it is very simple. And so I think part of the reason we had so much interest well beyond what the county saw with their program was because it was a fairly simple process. I would also like to add and to support the county a little bit, I guess. They did agree to the requests that we made in the city managers, CEOs meeting, conference call meetings, probably from 3 or 4 weeks ago. They actually went back to the board and enhanced their small business assistance program. So they added another $1,200 that just rolled out a few days ago for those businesses that had to do improvements outside, restaurants and others that had to do improvements outside to meet the COVID-19 guidelines. So we want to make sure we get that word out to the community as well, that even if they got funding the first time around from the county, they can get another $1,200 for those improvements.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, I believe this is a receive and file. Is that correct?
That's
So
it,
no
yes.
vote would be necessary.
No.
We'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements? I'd just like to make, go ahead.
I'm probably going to echo, or you're going to echo what I want to say, but I was in the evacuation area for the fires. I watched the fires essentially break out. I was on my way home, and it was very unnerving. I could see the work being done by our CAL FIRE crew in that house. the White House up there on the hill, and I watched them pretty much save that home. I don't know how they did it, but boy, when you see the work that our guys and gals are doing on the front line when something like this breaks out, you have nothing but utmost respect and admiration for the job that they're required to do. And boy, the heat was bad. So I just think that we got to figure out something to do post when things all are, when the dust settles, so to speak, and it's settling daily. Certainly at my house, it looks like Christmas snow. And so I think that we should do something to celebrate the hard work and all of the efforts that were done on behalf of this community by our guys and gals. So,
Anybody else?
I'd just like to thank Megan and Caroline for that work. I got an email about the businesses that they visited. I think you guys did a fantastic job. I appreciate that so much. And again, echo the staff and the work that they did because of this tragic fire. Thank you so much.
And for me, I concur with everything that Councilmember Allen said and what Councilmember Duncan said. As some of you know, I was right near ground zero. It was exciting, to say the least, to watch that fire do what it did. But to lead into tomorrow is September 11th, 19 years ago, we had a tragedy where 353 people died. It's still emotional for me. People running away, and then people walking in, because that's their life. And yesterday, or since Saturday, people were still walking into danger, while the rest of us were running away. It's a special calling for police and fire. And in this day, when people are bad-mouthing public safety, they don't realize the sacrifices that we willingly do every day. As one public safety official said, we don't get paid for what we do, we get paid for what we would do. So please, just kind of remember tomorrow and honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we would have a decent society. If nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.